on the Newsmaker hotline as he is every Friday. Our good friend Bret Baier from the Fox News Channel. Bret, how are you today?
Good morning.
Have we talked to you since Pebble Beach?
Oh yeah, he joined us last Friday when you were on your luxurious vacation.
Yeah, listen, I followed your tweets on that. It was what an experience, huh?
It was awesome. It really was. I'm still coming down off cloud nine.
All right, so I want to get into, there's a lot of stuff to talk about right now. Let's start with this issue of sequestration. And look, I hear one side say, oh, it's 1 to 2% of our $36 trillion budget. And then I hear other people say, it's the end of the world as we know it. From your vaunted position there at the Fox News Channel, where you have the worldwide resources of Fox News at your disposal, how do you see it?
Yeah. Well, listen, if it's your job, it's the end of the world. If it's so it's all about perspective. We went to Jennifer Griffin went down to a community down in Virginia and around the Norfolk area, Newport News actually, and they're really concerned, and they have right to be. There are a lot of businesses that will be affected. In the big picture, as far as the economy goes, it's $85 billion out of a $3.6 trillion economy. Now, the problem is the way that it's instituted, because it's across the board, and you can't move money around. If they wanted to fix this tomorrow, Congress could pass what's called transfer authority. The president could call for it. Congress could pass it and enable the Pentagon and all these agencies to prioritize and move from one bucket to another, from the weapons system that is in the future to the personnel bucket, and make sure that nobody's affected negatively. But they're not doing that. So really both sides are at fault here for not acting to stop it.
And so is it going to be resolved, or are we going over the sequestration cliff?
No, it's going to happen, Brian. It's going to go into effect.
What about these discussions between the Speaker and Mitch McConnell and the President that occurred yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was just, to hear people talk about it, they were frank discussions, and whenever you hear that word...
It means nothing happened.
It's pretty blunt, I think, and I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I don't think they're going to stop it. I don't think they're going to kick the can, and have, deal with it down the road. We have the continuing resolution battle to come at the end of the month. March 27th is when the funding of the government battle will happen. And that's obviously real. This is real, but it's, I said the other day, it's kind of like the bar of peanuts compared to what you've got on the plate ahead.
Bret Baier is our guest, of course, from the Fox News Special Report, and I want to hit on the Hagel nomination right now. A couple of questions. The late news last night was that 15 Republican senators wrote a letter urging the White House to withdraw the nomination, which I guess signals to us that they're pretty much ready to lose the vote now if they're begging. Does it look like it's going to happen, and when?
Yeah, early next week, I think they're going to move it forward, and barring some bombshell coming out in the next few days from, one of these speeches in the past, or a Q&A that, there's a videotape of Hagel saying something in recent years, it's going to move forward.
Yeah.
So they'll have the votes, and he'll get through.
Well, and my other question has to do with that in terms of the stuff that's come out about Hagel. It almost, you look at the media and you start to see these patterns develop. And it was shocking to me over the weekend when almost every single Sunday show had a segment comparing Ted Cruz and the line of questioning that he had over disclosure of funding for some of the speeches that Chuck Hagel gave. They were comparing Ted Cruz to Joe McCarthy. Is this, have you discussed this on the show this week in your roundtables? And is Ted Cruz really kind of alienating the rest of the Republicans in the Senate right now?
We did talk about it. Listen, the one round of questioning where he said, foreign governments, why are they so interested in Chuck Hagel, about Iran? I mean, some people took that as questioning Chuck Hagel's patriotism and said he went over the line. Interpretation. The one thing that is clear is that the media is really focused on Ted Cruz, and we did do a panel segment on it this week, and and it has some of the early indications of the media kind of obsession of Sarah Palin in the early days. Whether rightly or wrongly, he's getting a lot of attention, and we'll see how he handles it.
I mean, I would guess with his base, Ted Cruz can actually get a lot of attention and cheers and applause when he goes back and says, "Hey, the media hate me." I mean, that's not really hurting Ted Cruz.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably advantageous to him in his fundraising and other things.
All right, let me talk about the other nomination out there, John Brennan for CIA. Rand Paul says he's going to do everything he can to stop it. Can he?
He can filibuster it, and he can definitely prevent it. I actually think Brennan is in more trouble than Hagel is.
Oh?
I think that that the potential for Brennan filibuster or Brennan stop up in the Senate is more likely than Hagel. I think Hagel probably, once you get to cloture, which is the vote that gets them over the hump to actually a majority vote, I think then that's going to sail through. But Brennan might have some issues. I mean, you have both the left and the right with the drone issue, and the Benghazi questions. I think you've got some real problems for him. I think Rand Paul on the drone question is serious about filibustering.
Wow, you just said. I'm sorry, but you said from the left and the right. What are you hearing in terms of are there Democrats who are actually saying that they wouldn't vote for Brennan?
Well, I don't think the head count is there. I don't know that they've come out and said they're voting against him, but they have expressed concerns publicly at those hearings.
Wow.
And whether that ever developed into a vote against, I think would be a stretch. But you could see where there would be more than just one senator who would be holding the line.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one more thing about the. We had Gene Sperling on last night from the administration.
Right.
And they have this WARN Act, which they have to give 60 days notice to anybody who's going to get furloughed or laid off from a company with 100 employees or more. Well, you remember the dust-up before the election.
Right.
Or charges that they didn't send out these notices because they didn't want them to go out before the election day for political reasons. So the OMB sent out a letter saying, listen, companies, if you get sued, if the sequester goes into effect and you get sued, they'll cover the legal fees and any cost.
I remember that.
Okay. Well, that letter is still in effect. And the furlough notices are going out. And some of these furloughs are happening. Some of them are happening before 60 days. So I asked him last night, what happens if some trial attorney says, well, wait a second, we didn't get the 60-day notice. Is the OMB, going to pick up the tab for all of the lawsuits potentially against the U.S. government? There was no answer.
Stunned
We're
silence.
Get the answer to that today.
All right,
that's a great line of inquiry to go after.
And that's why we watch Special Report on Fox News Channel every day at 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Bret Baier, thanks for joining us. Always love to have you every week.
See you guys.
Thanks.